It's a warm evening at Singapore Changi Airport. It is one of the busiest and most advanced airports in the world. At gate F34, passengers begin boarding Singapore Airlines Flight SQ319, a long-haul flight bound for London Heathrow. For many on board, it's just another trip. Some are heading home, others are starting a new chapter. A few are simply connecting to the next stop in their journey. In the cockpit, the flight crew runs through their final checks. The aircraft is fully fueled, fully loaded, and cleared for departure. The weather is good. The skies ahead look calm. Everything seems normal. But what no one knows is that this flight will soon face something unexpected. One that turns a peaceful journey into a tense, unfolding emergency at 35,000 feet. What went wrong on Singapore Airlines Flight 319? Stay with us. This is the story of Singapore Airlines Flight SQ319, a flight that no one on board will ever forget. It's October 24, 2022 at London Heathrow Airport. Evening is settling in. The terminal is buzzing, but the mood at gate F34 is calm. Passengers are boarding Singapore Airlines Flight 319, heading home or far from home to Singapore Changi Airport. It's a long flight, about 13 hours overnight. Most people plan to eat, sleep, and land with the morning sun. Outside, the sky is darkening. Light rain has passed through, but the forecast ahead looks mostly smooth. No storms, no big delays. The aircraft is a Boeing 777-300ER built for long flights like this one. It's loaded with over 106,000 kilograms of fuel. That's more than enough for the trip, plus holding, diversions, and emergency backup. This plane is no stranger to the skies. It's been tested, maintained, and cleared for a demanding overnight flight with 280 people on board. At the front of the plane, the pilots, the first officer who will fly tonight, and the captain, who's monitoring, review the route and the weather. They'll be flying across Europe, the Middle East, and the Indian Ocean before reaching Southeast Asia. It's a route they know well. They double-check the alternates, Kuala Lumpur, Senai, and Paya Lebar Air Base. Everything looks fine. The weather near Singapore might be a little stormy by morning. Some rain, maybe a few rumbles of thunder, but nothing unusual. No cause for concern. Inside the cabin, the lights dim. Passengers pull blankets over their laps. Some scroll through movies. Others close their eyes and drift off. At 7:50 p.m., local time, the engines rumble to life. The Boeing 777 begins its long roll down the runway and lifts from the ground. The journey has begun. The flight is smooth. No turbulence, no system warnings. Hour by hour, the jet inches closer to morning and to Singapore. But while the passengers sleep, the weather back home is changing. Slowly, quietly. By the time the flight nears its destination, the sky will not be calm. Heavy rain, low visibility, shifting winds. And suddenly, Singapore might not be able to take them in. After nearly 12 hours in the sky, Singapore Airlines Flight 319 is ready to land. Landing cards are pulled from seat pockets. At 8:01 a.m., the flight is handed over to Singapore Approach. They're told to expect runway 20 right at Changi Airport. Everything still seems normal. The crew checks their systems. The onboard computers estimate they'll land with about 7,000 kilograms of fuel, well above minimums. Nothing looks concerning. But just 4 minutes later, that calm begins to crack. Air traffic control asks them to hold over a waypoint called PASPU. Winds are shifting at Changi, too strong for a safe approach. The skies around the airport are changing fast. Thunderstorms, rain, low visibility. And it's not just Changi. Two alternate airports, Paya Lebar and Senai, are also under heavy rain. The weather radar paints an ugly picture. Only one airport in the region looks clear, Batam. It's across the sea in Indonesia. Small, quiet, but dry. At 8:10, Changi switches runways. They're now using 20 left. Flight 319 is told to hold. Again, rain continues to pour over Singapore. Visibility drops to just 500 meters. Then at 8:27, a bigger decision is made. Changi Airport stops accepting arrivals. Conditions are now too dangerous. Flight 319 is stuck in the sky. Their destination is closed. Their alternates are soaked in storms, and they are burning fuel minute by minute. The captain asks for updates. There are none. They enter another holding pattern just as their fuel situation edges closer to the limit. They have one choice left, and very little time. By 8:31 in the morning, it's clear they can't keep circling. The captain radios in, "We can do one hold. After that, we'll be down to emergency fuel." Visibility over Changi keeps falling. Every second spent in the hold pulls them closer to a dangerous line. By 8:36, they ask again if there is any update. Sadly, there isn't. They say they can hold once more, but that's it. Then they'll need to divert to Batam. 2 minutes later, they're told to fly heading 180 south. Odd. That's away from both Changi and Batam. The crew asks why. The controller responds, "Changi still not accepting arrivals. Batam hasn't approved your diversion yet. Batam hasn't approved it." And they're running out of time. At 8:44, the captain gives a firm message. "We need to divert to Batam now." This is the 4th flight to make that call this morning. At this point, the captain takes the controls. The first officer becomes the monitoring pilot. They head toward Batam, but approval from Indonesian airspace is still pending. At 8:48, Singapore transfers them to a new controller, SAC. The controller guides them toward the edge of their airspace. But again, the message is the same. Clearance from Batam, still pending. Now the fuel is almost gone. 2 minutes later, the crew finally says the words that cannot be ignored. "Mayday fuel." The flight is now descending toward Batam. It is an unfamiliar airport, never meant to be today's destination. The captain is flying, and he's doing double duty, handling both the controls and the radio. The first officer is helping where he can, setting switches, watching speeds, calling out altitudes. Runway 22 is the target. At 9 o'clock sharp, air traffic control calls in with one more hurdle. Tailwinds, 14 knots, gusting up to 30. That's a lot, too much for a safe landing in this direction. The captain makes the call, "Go around." At 1,600 feet above the ground, the big Boeing powers back up into the sky. There's fuel left for 1, maybe 2, more chances. They swing around and line up again. This time it'll be runway 04. The wind is better, visibility is still poor. But now, another issue. As they descend through the clouds, the autopilot won't lock onto the glide slope. A message flashes on the screen. "No autoland." That's bad. It means they're not safely aligned. The captain grabs the controls, tries to guide the plane manually, but it's drifting, left of the center line. High on the path, too fast. A warning starts blaring. "Sink rate! Sink rate!" They're coming down too fast. At just over 200 feet above the ground, the captain pulls up. Another go-around. Fuel is running dangerously low now. The captain knows this could be their last chance to land safely. They prepare for another approach to runway 04. Visibility is still poor, just 500 meters. Heavy rain is falling. The tailwind is strong, but this time the captain decides to push forward. The plane lines up on the runway's path. As they break through the clouds, the captain notices they are above the glide path and slightly left of the center line. He adjusts, trying to bring the plane down safely. Suddenly, the warning sounds again, this time for an excessive sink rate. The plane is descending too fast. The captain pulls up once more. They can't risk it. Safety comes first. The plane climbs back up into the gray sky. They circle around. The fuel gauge is now critical. This time, the winds favor a landing on runway 22, but the tailwind is still at the limit. The captain knows the risks. There's no more room for error. They make the final turn toward runway 22. At 9:19 a.m., the wheels touch down. The plane is on the ground, safe, but just barely. There is no injury to any person in this incident. The passengers breathe a collective sigh of relief. For the crew, it's a narrow escape. After the aircraft rolls to a stop at Batam Airport, the investigation begins. The question is simple. How did a routine flight from London end up landing with dangerously low fuel? Singapore Airlines allows its pilots to decide when to divert. There's no fixed rule, only guidelines and professional judgment. The forecast for Changi wasn't perfect, but it wasn't alarming either. Scattered thunderstorms. The crew expects delays, not a shutdown, so they wait. They hold. They hope Changi will reopen in time. Even after saying they can only hold once, they agree to hold again. They still ask for updates. Still wonder if the runway might open soon, but the longer they circle, the more fuel they burn. And the storm that shuts down Singapore? It drifts south toward Batam. There is the autoland confusion as well. On the first approach to Batam, the crew plans an autoland. In heavy rain and poor visibility, automation can be a lifeline. But they miss one detail. The localizer signal for runway 04 is offset by 1 degree. According to airline rules, that means no autoland. The briefing documents don't mention this, and in that high-stress moment, the crew forgets something critical. They never check in with Batam Tower. They don't have clearance to land. And the tower controllers? They can't see the aircraft in the rain. As fuel levels drop, the crew starts warning air traffic control. They say they're down to emergency fuel. Later, they call it minimum fuel. But that language doesn't trigger an emergency response. Controllers continue managing all traffic, even vectoring the plane farther from Batam at one point. What they need to say is simple, Mayday fuel. But they don't say it until it's almost too late. That's how the investigation highlights a chain of small misjudgments. hoping too long for improving weather, missing a technical detail in the approach, and miscommunicating a fuel emergency. Each one alone might be manageable. Together, they bring the flight to the edge. This flight reveals how fragile safety can be. Now the airline makes changes. Briefing documents are updated. Pilots are reminded to speak clearly, act early, and know when hope becomes danger. What do you think? Should the pilots have diverted earlier? Or were they right to hold out hope for Changi? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story gripping, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon because more real aviation stories are coming soon. Until next time, fly safe and stay curious.